Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers Preview. Joining me, as always, as we preview this NFL preseason Week 4 game, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Carolina Panthers in the Meaningless Bowl. It's not meaningless to everybody. We'll get to that in a second. But joining me, as always, to cover it is Bryan Anthony Davis and Dave Schofield. Bryan, how's it going tonight? Looks like you're on a pirate ship.
Yeah, I feel like Kramer in that one episode. He was just like, I don't know what's going on, but hey, I can't look any worse, can I? With my internet issues.
Is that a rhetorical question?
Yeah, let's just leave it at rhetorical. But thanks.
Dave Schofield, how's it going?
Oh, it's going. I'm trying to figure out, maybe someone in the live chat can tell Bryan what to do to fix his computer, but let's not. I feel like I'm a peeping Tom trying to check out what's going on at the Davis household. So,
well, I will say his connection is better. So if we have to go with the Spygate view, then we're fine with the better connection. So there you go. All right, so let's talk about the Steelers. It's been a short week. There has been a quick turnaround. They go from Sunday Night Football against the Tennessee Titans, and now they have Thursday night against the Carolina Panthers, in which case everybody is playing on Thursday as they prepare then for Week 1. That gives them an extra few days before that happens. I do want to talk about the upcoming game. I do want to talk about some news, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on the game that was, because we previewed it last Thursday, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it too much. I just want to get a quick rundown. What impressed you? What were you disappointed with from maybe you weren't disappointed with anything from Week 3? So, Dave, I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
Defense.
Okay, what specifically about the defense?
Their speed. Oh my goodness. I feel like they're just flying around. I feel that Tyler Matakevich is like left behind everybody, not because, well, I don't think he's the fastest guy anyway, but it just gets exponentially worse because everybody else is so fast. They're just flying around. They're smacking each other. A lot of people, I even mentioned on the Steelers Stat Geek last night that any one of three guys would have had that safety, because even Tuitt didn't have to beat the quarterback. Tuitt had to beat his teammates, because Cam Hayward and Bud Dupree were both right there. So, yeah. Either way, one of those three guys was getting the safety. But the whole reason that play was set up is because Terrell Edmunds came up and smacked the receiver to knock the ball out on first down. It's just, I like the way they're flying around. It's just great to watch.
Okay. Let's go with Bryan. We have someone has a fix for your webcam. So just take that toilet paper roll off, and you'll be fine.
Remember, not everyone sees these when they're listening to the podcast, so we have to make sure we read it.
Reed says that Bryan has a toilet paper roll over his webcam, so if he just removes the toilet paper roll, he'll probably be fine.
You know what? All I'm going to say is there's plenty of podcasts out there. You're never going to meet anybody just like me. So it's an adventure every week, my friends.
So back to football. Something that impressed you about Week 3 that wasn't speed and defense that Dave just mentioned.
Well, you know what? Dave is right. That's the best speed I've seen since Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock on a bus. But they looked fantastic. But that's the best dress rehearsal you're going to get. And I'd be remiss not to say, Mike Tomlin won a challenge.
It's been a while, that's for sure. It doesn't even count though. It's exhibition.
People say it doesn't count because it's the preseason. What doesn't count is that the officials are in preseason mode, and that was just not the right call. So it's easier to win a challenge.
Yes. For me, Week 3, I think back to when I was a coach, and again, I didn't coach football, but I was a head coach for over 13 years, and we would have preseason games and scrimmages and play days all the time. And I used to tell anyone that asked, hey, what are your expectations? I'd always say, I want us to play well, but I don't want us to play perfect. And the reason why I never wanted to play perfect is because I wanted there to be something that we could watch film on, that I could still ream the guys for doing something that they should have done, keep them focused on the task ahead, which were the games that counted in the regular season. And I feel like the Steelers, especially offensively, that was it. The first two possessions were not bad. You could definitely tell they were getting a feel for everything, but it was rusty enough that the Steelers offense and Randy Fichtner could say, guys, we still have a lot of work to do. Like, we have a lot of work to do. Yeah, the touchdown and that drive to Juju, that was great. And James Conner ran the ball well, and the offensive line looked good. But Roethlisberger, obviously, he wasn't in sync with his receivers yet. Okay, so for me, I view that as a win because it's just enough for them to stay focused. Because I guess I shouldn't say that, because the Patriots are going to get your focus no matter what. But at the same time, we've seen it before with this team. Sometimes they can kind of feed into themselves a little bit too much. They can get a little bit overconfident, overzealous. But I thought that the offense, I liked how they moved Juju Smith-Schuster around. When I rewatched the first few drives, if you watched, it was not like last year when Mr. Third and Fifth was always in the same spot on the field. He was either the right side or the left side, but he was always the wide receiver, split wide. And they've moved Juju to the slot. They moved him in a bunch formation. They put him out wide. Obviously, that's how he scored his touchdown in that post pattern. I was really impressed with how the Steelers offense moved. And there's a great article on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com right now that was published today about how Randy Fichtner did a great job with the starters. And that's from our own Cliff Harris is still a punk, who does great work for our site in terms of film breakdowns. So if you haven't checked that article out, do so. Go there after the show, BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, find it, read it. It's a long read, but he uses GIFs, everything. It's awesome. So what about something that disappointed, Dave? Give me something is there anything that you're like, I wish this would have been better?
Wish it would have been better. I would have said I would have liked more something better on the 2-point conversion, but that kind of did save me a little bit there with the bet with Bo.
Bo's in the live chat.
Yeah, we talked a little bit last night. No, I was bummed that he didn't win. That would have been fun, but that was your one shot. You're not going to get a bunch of other bets for me now. But no, I don't know. There's nothing I can really say much about the defense when all they gave up was 2 field goals all night. I was disappointed. I was disappointed with the interception. I would have liked to played the clean, no turnover game. But I mean, anytime you turn the ball over, that's disappointing. I mean, sometimes the defense just makes a great play, but this was not a great play. I mean, it was an overthrow of a guy that's 6'8", and it was in the red zone. So it took away points off the board. That would probably be the most disappointing thing.
Brian, do you have anything that's different from what Dave just said?
Yeah, it's along the same lines, but a little bit different. I'd like to see them close the game out. I thought Josh Dobbs didn't really help himself at all. In fact, I think he made himself weaker, especially when the Colts were really watching that game, and they really were, because he's probably one of 3 or 4 names that they're checking out for a backup for Jacoby Brissett. I thought Dobbs was very underwhelming in that game and did nothing to help himself. And you really wanted to see them score points in the second half as well. For as well as they played and as well as the defense played, the offense probably could have scored a little bit more. So I'll go ahead and say that. I'm also disappointed not to see more Deontay Spencer in special teams. I know they were giving Ryan Switzer every chance they could, but overall, this is lucky guy problems right now. I thought it was a very good game overall. I thought it was a good showing. And one thing I did notice on the positive end, if I could just circle back real quick, there was not one guy that you could mention there, not one, even the offensive line, that didn't have something to prove in that game. Offensive line has to prove that they can do it without Mike Munchak. Ben Roethlisberger has to prove that he could do it without Mr. Third and Fifth. The receivers have to prove that, hey, they're worthy of that position. Everybody on that team had something to prove, and they pretty much proved it.
Yeah, I feel like we're in the nitpicking stage when it comes to the Week 3 performance, and it's a good thing. I do wish I would have seen some fresher faces like Deontay Johnson getting a chance. Because I would say if there was something I was kind of bummed about, I put Ryan Switzer and Eli Rogers in my losers column. Because I just didn't see anything from either of them. Ryan Switzer really isn't providing any spark as a return man. I'm sorry, not Deontay Johnson. What's his last name? Help me out here, guys. Spencer. He's at least a spark plug in the return game. And so he's not going to make it as just a returner. So let's see if he can run the slot. I wish they would have put him in earlier, like you said, Brian. So, okay. Let's talk about some news, and this isn't really anything that was reported or any breaking news. They did make a roster move this week. They waived Brian Allen. That can impact the 53-man roster, but we're not talking about that news. We're talking about Joe Hayden's contract. Guys, they're running out of time. And so my question for you is, does a deal get done? Because I think personally, although if you read like some other people that have written, like I know Mark Caboli wrote this, The Athletic, Jim Wexell as well, that the Steelers might not even be that interested in another tight end based on the fact that they're going to abandon their 2 tight end look that they like so much and use like a Jalen Samuels or someone else in that spot. Just something to think about. But if they're going to get a tight end or they're going to get a punter or whatever position they feel they need, they're going to need to free up some more cap space, and that would typically come with a Joe Hayden contract. Brian, we'll start with you. Does a deal get done, in your opinion, for Joe Hayden?
Absolutely not. It does not. And if you go ahead and take a look at my fact or fiction from last week, the end of last week, I state that he will probably not get a deal because I don't think Joe Hayden is willing to sign for what the Steelers are going to give him. He has mentioned recently that he expects to play until he's about 36 years old. It's not going to be a team-friendly deal, and that's what the Steelers are expecting him to sign. We saw this a couple of years ago with Joe Hayden in Cleveland, not accepting the discount that Cleveland wanted. And so I just don't see him doing it. I think this is the last year for Joe Hayden just because I think he feels he's worth more in this situation that the Steelers ultimately will.
Dave, what do you think?
Well, we got to remember that when Joe Hayden signed with the Steelers, that was not his best offer. And he ended up signing with the Steelers, wasn't it? You guys might know the numbers a little bit better because I'm just trying to remember. I know I'm asking you guys about numbers. About his actual contract versus what he wouldn't take the cut for of the Browns. Didn't he end up signing for something similar with the Steelers than what the Browns were wanting him to take? But the whole issue was, why would he take less money from the Browns when they hadn't won anything for forever versus playing for a contender with the Steelers? So the question is he still under that same mentality of, hey, you're going to be part of a team that can do something special? Or has the last couple seasons and some of the drama that they've cleared out of the locker room, is that weighing heavier on him? And maybe that's not his biggest priority. You just kind of have to guess into the mind of Joe Hayden.
That's tough. And that's the situation that they find themselves in based on the fact that you don't know what his asking price is and what his own individual value is. You know what I mean? So it's a tough situation. I'm going to say that a deal gets done. It's going to be obviously after week 4. I think it's going to be maybe leading up into that first game. And if it creates any cap space, it's probably going to roll over into next season anyways. And that's only going to benefit the team next year as well. So, all right. Just because we have a super chat here from Bernardo. He asked a question. He puts $18.90 in the tip jar. We appreciate that.
Is that dollars?
I don't know. It says R next to it.
Yeah, because that's coming from Brazil.
Hey, for me, I'm like, yes, so that's almost $20. When in reality, maybe that's just like $1.90. I don't
know. We are big in Brazil. We had somebody from Brazil, a different on the Hangover, a different person on the live chat. So we're reaching to South America, baby.
Oh boy, watch out! The best Steelers podcast in the world, people, not just the continental United States. Okay,
he says Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, there you go. How big do you guys think Terrell Austin's role is with the team? Could he eventually become full-time defensive coordinator? Steelers fan from Brazil and big fan of all the shows. Thank you for listening, Bernardo. It's a good question. We'll answer that question now. Dave, what are your thoughts on Austin's role? Because technically he's labeled as, correct me if I'm wrong, assistant coach and also secondary coach. Am I missing a label or title for him?
I'm not sure. I think you got it right there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
anyways,
yeah.
What do you think about his
regardless
role?
of the title? I think this is pretty much on. Yeah, I think that he's kind of here to see what's going to happen. We don't know what the future is going to be with Keith Butler, with him coming into the last year of his contract and him almost seeming like he's getting a demotion. This is just, I think this is just really a test the waters year to see kind of how things are.
What about you, Bryan?
You know what? I'm drinking the Austin Kool-Aid right now. Right now, Austin 316 says this guy's for real, and I love the speed and I just think there's a correlation because a lot of these guys that we're bragging about being fast, they weren't here last year. I mean, this seems to be the defensive line. They're all incumbents, but they're playing faster. But Dupree is playing faster. The defensive backs seem to be faster, especially a guy like that was not drafted and known for his speed. Terrell Edmonds looks a little quicker. So I'm. Can you coach that speed, or can you just coach ways to be speedier? Yeah, I'm sure you can. I just think that he is playing. That he is doing something. He's added something to the mix to make this defense better. So there's got to be a future for this guy if they end up being a top 10, top 5 defense.
I'm going to pump the brakes on all sorts of hype on him. It's preseason. We haven't seen much of him. We don't know to the extent, like, again, is it him or is it the fact that they signed a guy like Steven Nelson to solidify that other cornerback position? Maybe he's someone that's driving Artie Burns to be better. I don't know. We don't know. So it's going to be difficult to gauge who is successful, who is the driving force. But hey, if they win, I don't care. If they win and the defense looks great, then I don't know why they would get rid of Keith Butler, to be honest with you. But so we'll see. Okay. Perfect segue into our Stat Geek segment. Dave, you have a Stat Geek question for today?
Yeah, I have a couple quick questions.
Sure.
Just to know, because we're previewing the next game where the Steelers are playing the Carolina Panthers. How many straight years have the Steelers and the Panthers played in the preseason? And I'm pretty sure every one of them is week 4. Do you guys know what the streak is?
I think I'm a little high. I'm gonna say 6.
I was gonna say 6, so let's go 7.
Bryan, you almost had it if you would have added the word teen to it. It goes all the way back to 2003.
Shut up. Really?
In week 4?
17. I'm not. I got it back that they're all the way back there. I did not go through and check every individual year to confirm that they were week 4. That was actually on my to-do list this evening, but with running around with stuff with kids, I'm like, you know what? I think we've got it, because I'd have to go in each year and try to find it.
Fine.
But yeah, it's 17, and it's been and out of like the 21, what is it, like 25 years that the Carolina's been in the league. I think out of 25, it's been either 20 or 21 that they've played in the preseason. There was a break in there. But yeah, it's been 17 straight since 2003. That's easy for me to remember because that was the year I got married. So I'm going into my 17th anniversary next year. So I'll remember that one. But I thought that was crazy. I knew it was a long time. My guess would have been 11 until I looked it up, because I knew it was pretty high. Here's the other question now. Steelers, 3-0 in the preseason. Do we want that 4-0 in the preseason? Or do we want that 3-1? In the last 20 years, how many teams have won the Super Bowl going 4-0 in the preseason?
The last 20 years?
The last 20 years.
0.
I'd have to say 0.
Well, it's not 0, but it's not very high.
That's 1.
In the last 20 years, it's 3.
Wow.
Okay. But in the last 15 years, it's been 1. So that means that there was 2 of them early on. So the most recent team to win the Super Bowl and go 4-0 in the preseason was the 2013 Seattle Seahawks. They went 4-0 in the preseason. But then the Patriots went 4-0 in the preseason in 2003 and won the Super Bowl, which is funny because ironically the next year they went 1-3 but then also won the Super Bowl. And then the Ravens, it's just hard to even talk about them if I don't have to. In 2000, Ravens and Super Bowl in the same sentence just makes me cringe. But in 2000, they went 4-0 in the preseason. But what's interesting is that if you go back over the last 15 years, there are more teams that went 0-16 after going 4-0 than teams that won the Super Bowl after going 4-0, because both the Browns and the Lions both had their own 16 years after having a great preseason. So do we really want to win this game Thursday? I say yes, because I say let's buck that trend. Let's go 4-0. Let's show you got the depth and everything else. But if you really want the breakdown over the last, I just went with 20 years because it was a nice round number, that 3 teams have won the Super Bowl going 4-0. 8 teams have won the Super Bowl going 3-1. 6 teams have won the Super Bowl going 2-2. Who put that up there?
I did not, but I love it.
I didn't touch it.
No, that was me. That was
and
me.
But there has been 3 teams that went 1-3 in the preseason, and went on to win the Super Bowl. But I can't find anywhere, and that goes back 20 years, that someone that didn't win a preseason game and won the Super Bowl. Actually, I saw a stat today. The last time that happened was the year of the strike. In 80, was that 82? So
I don't know.
The preseason means something, that you got to at least win something, but it doesn't mean everything that you need to win all the games. So remember that going into Thursday.
I'm a superstitious guy. And so I'm going to say that if they lose this one, I'll be fine. We're good. If they win it, it's happened. So it's not like it's, 4-0's never won a Super Bowl ever. So we'll see. It'll be all right. Is that all for the Stat Geek this week?
That's it.
All right. Now, before we get to questions, because the live chat's hopping tonight, I really appreciate all you guys taking the time to spend some time with us. And we've had a lot of people so far in the live chat say, it's my first time in the live chat. First time in the live chat. Welcome to the live chat. It is a good group of people here. You all ready to play a little bubble game, little bubble burst? Here's how we're gonna play the game. I'm gonna name a player that we feel, and I say we as in Dave sent me an email with a list of players, and it's essentially going to be someone that is considered on the bubble, the roster bubble, and you have to say, will they make the roster or will they not? So if you say yes, they make the team. If you say no, they're on the wrong side of things and they're looking for employment. Everyone understand the rules?
I understand.
Bryan Anthony Davis, do you understand the rules?
Kind of. I'm just waiting to put my own spin on it, so that's all right.
Well, I want serious answers. We're gonna start.
Brian doesn't follow the rules.
It's really tough.
I'm a renegade.
Jeff didn't follow the rules tonight. He didn't get the yellow memo, so that he was supposed to wear gold tonight. So
sorry.
So basically, they're on the bubble, Jeff, and we say they're gonna make it or pop. It's gonna burst.
Yes. Okay. Let's start on the defensive line. And we'll start with Isaiah Buggs. We'll start with Bryan.
I think he's going to make it because I think they're going to take 6. I really want them to take 5 and leave Buggs off of it.
Ooh, Dave.
I really like Brian's answer. I think he's in unless that's the position that they choose. If they want to try to sneak in like an extra linebacker, which is I'm keep trying to do with the 53-man. I'm trying to find somewhere else to take that from. Defensive line could be that spot. And that's what it comes down to with Buggs. If they take 6, I think it's him. If they don't take 6, then he's burst.
I think that they don't take him. I think they're going to try to get him on the practice squad. I think they're going to want an extra linebacker. So I'm going to say that no, he does not make it. We're going to go, just to make this smoother, Brian's going to go first, then Dave, and then me. All right, outside linebacker. I feel like this is an easy answer, but maybe not. Sutton Smith. Bryan.
He's not making it. He hasn't shown enough.
Dave?
Pop goes the weasel. He's on the practice squad.
That's what I was going to say. Dave, Bryan, do you think they tried to get him practice squad? Or do you think okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what about I mean, this is the biggest thing because this guy has impressed everybody. He's gotten a sack a game in the preseason. We're talking about Skipper. Two's our Skipper.
Brian's the guy.
Bryan, it's your guy.
Yeah, gotta go with 51. Yes, he makes it. Yeah, have to. Especially now, there is a possibility that he doesn't make it, and they put the IR designation on Ola Denny, and then he's back up. So they're going to be playing some roster games here. They might have to, but I really think they don't even want to take that chance. So I'm saying he makes it.
Cool. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Dave. If they were to keep Ola, because they would have to have him on the roster to put him on injured reserve to be able to return, they would have to waive Skipper and hope that he stays. Correct?
They're not going to do that. They're going to do okay. I'll come back to the whole issue in just a second about if they're going to do that with Ola. They're not going to do that. They're going to be smart. They're going to do like they did last year, and when they with Ola and they cut your favorite guy, Nate Burhay.
Oh, he was horrible.
Well, the reason they cut him is because he was a vested veteran and did not have to go to waivers. He could sign with anyone. They're going to find that player that they could cut that wouldn't go onto the waiver wire, that then they can say, we're only cutting you because we want to re-sign you, but we have to get him on IR. Please don't go anywhere. That's what I think they would do. But personally, I think Skipper makes it. The biggest problem, Jeff just likes to distract us by bringing up comments. Yeah. So the whole thing with Ola, everyone's been talking about Ola to the IR. I think that's crazy. He's not supposed to be gone that long. Why do you want to wash away half of his season again? Well, by washing away half his season last year, he lost a whole season. He played 9 snaps, and everyone was so excited about him making the 53, only to find out he was going on the IR the next day. I don't think they want to waste another year with him because I think wasting half the year will waste the whole year. I think he's on, and I think he's going to be back after a week or two. But I think Skipper's going to make it on his own. The biggest concern is that he hasn't played special teams. So I'm hoping to see him play special teams this Thursday.
Well, and the funny thing is that he actually said, this is Skipper, mind you, to the media. He said, it's not that I'm telling him I'm not playing special teams. He said, if the coach tells me to play special teams, I'm out there playing special teams. Now, here's my question for you guys. We all agree that Skipper, I think, is making the team. But does he even get a helmet on game day if everyone's healthy? That's would he even get a helmet? Because if Chicolo's there, if Adenye's healthy again, and then you got Watt and Dupree, I just don't see them dressing that many outside linebackers, especially if he doesn't even play special teams.
Well, especially with Ola coming. If Ola's out, then yeah, but if Ola comes back, ooh, that's a good question.
Chick's not overly healthy either right now.
No.
So there could be a possibility that he's your number 3 guy, but probably not. You're right, Jeff. He probably doesn't get a helmet.
Okay. All right,
I think once we get the whole roster, it'd be a lot easier to answer that question once we see who the cut down is.
Let's move on to the next position, and this is going to be another tough one because it's a numbers game. Ulysses Gilbert. I have my feelings. Bryan, what are yours?
I think they try to make room for him, but if it's a toss-up, and I know they're not playing the same spot, but if it's a toss-up between Skipper and Ulysses, or even another guy on offense that if it's between Skipper and Ulysses, he's not going to win that face-off. I really don't think, because there is so much more depth at the inside linebacker position. I think they still love Tyler Matakevich, and then he might be on your list too. So Dirty Red, because of what he does on special teams, he might win the face-off over Gilbert, and so I'm going to say Pop.
The only thing I can't say is, you talk about the depth at inside linebacker. Is it really that good?
Yeah.
Because is it because Vince Williams can't run? And Tyler Matakevich can't run. And this defense is predicated on being able to run sideline to sideline now. And so I think that because of that change in it's not a change in philosophy, it's a change in need, and they actually address that need for once. I think that promotes him up. And if it were me, and you may all call me crazy, I would keep Gilbert over Skipper. Because honestly, Gilbert looks like he could do it against starters. Skipper has done it against like 4th-string tackles. Now he's still doing it, but at the same time, I'm not taking preseason production over what I think is really good potential, where if you look down the road and in 2 years, you could possibly see Devin Bush and Ulysses Gilbert at inside linebacker. That's a heck of a duo in terms of speed and athleticism. Dave, what are your thoughts?
It's simple. He's on this team. There's no way they can let go of this guy. He's better at his position than Skipper. He's better than, I mean, I would honestly, the way he's played, I would take him over Ola. I mean, I know they're not playing the same position, but if I had to choose between the two of them, I'm keeping Gilbert. I don't think they'll do it, but I would keep him over Matakevich. I know Matakevich is their special teams guy.
I would too.
Gilbert's the better linebacker. He's the better linebacker. Did you see him in coverage specifically against Kansas City? He was doing fantastic.
Yeah.
And what happened to Matakevich in coverage against Kansas City? Big completion downfield. Okay. They can't put Matakevich in the game at linebacker, basically, in my opinion, because they can barely put Vince Williams in on passing downs, and Vince Williams is much greater than Tyler Matakevich. But with Gilbert, I keep wanting to say Grant, but with Gilbert, he can do it. So I think as they're showing how they're evolving this middle linebacker position with the guys like Barron and Bush, Gilbert is in that mold. He's got to stay. He's showed too much. They need him on this team. If I'm only keeping 4, if they told me I had to keep 4, as much as they love them some dirty red because of special teams, Gilbert is the better linebacker.
Yeah.
They don't think that way, though, guys. They just don't. And I'll bring up that issue a little bit later on when we talk about wide receiver, but they just don't think that way.
Okay. I just know that every year it seems like we have 1 or 2 surprise cuts and you're not ready for it. Like last year is Landry Jones. No one in their right mind thought Landry Jones was getting cut last year. No one. None. Everyone thought Joshua Dobbs was gone. And everyone was preparing for Landry Jones and Mason Rudolph. And then all of a sudden, on Saturday at 4 p.m., the Steelers release their list, and it's, holy crap, they cut Landry Jones. Just saying, it's happened before. Okay, let's go to safety. Jordan Dangerfield. Bryan. These are tough decisions.
You know what? I'm a Marcus Allen guy, and I would much rather them keep Marcus Allen in that situation. I just think that, like I just said before, if I'm saying what they should do, keep Marcus Allen, let go of 5 years of Jordan Dangerfield. What they're going to do is keep Jordan Dangerfield. And I could also see Jordan Dangerfield as an LJ Fort, Steven Johnson type guy where he gets cut, brought back, cut, brought back, like they did just 2 years ago. Those guys were setting a record for getting released and brought back 3 days later. So he could possibly go, but I don't think it'll be the end of the road for number 37. They love what he does as far as rushing the passer from that position. They like that. They like what he does on special teams, but it just depends on what they value. I think there's more upside with Marcus Allen, but they do a lot with incumbents, and I'm just afraid they're going to value service more than upside.
What are you, Dave?
Well, here's something that's very interesting is that, and I included this when I did my breakdown of it because his situation is crazy. He's technically eligible for the practice squad.
Who?
Dangerfield.
How? He hasn't accrued enough seasons.
Here's how it works. 2014, he was in someone else's camp. I can't remember now. Didn't make the practice squad. 2015. Oh no, sorry, that was 2013. 2014, he's with the Steelers. Doesn't end up on the practice squad till November. plays 4 weeks on the practice squad, which is not enough to count as a year on the practice squad, and then gets called up for 3 weeks on the active roster, which doesn't count as enough for an accrued season. So 2014 doesn't count as either for him. So then 2015, he was practice squad. 16, he was active roster. 17, he was injured and then added to the practice squad. 18, he was active roster. He hasn't hit 3 years accrued, and he hasn't used his third year practice squad. So he's eligible for the practice squad. That's insane. Yeah, and I thought the Johnny Holton situation was crazy. So, but I've getting a little bit more clarity with some of this, having to ask Simon Chester and some other people about that. But it's crazy that he is. So technically he could go there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets signed elsewhere. I haven't noticed him in the preseason. Have you guys noticed Dangerfield in the preseason?
Just a handful of plays here or there.
Barely.
But it's right back to the Matakevich versus Gilbert situation. Do you want your backup to be the better special teamer that's not as good at the position, or do you want the better position player that could be adequate at special teams? Because I don't know that they would do the same at both positions. I don't know that they could let Matakevich and Dangerfield both go. So it really is going to come down to, not that Marcus Allen wouldn't be good on special teams, but I think for the preseason he's shown that he's a better safety. But
Dave, I agree.
Cam Kelly's on. Cam Kelly's he's in.
Yeah, I was going to say I think Cam Kelly's a lock, but Dave,
Yeah,
you're saying Marcus Allen over Dangerfield?
I'm saying it's a toss-up between what they want. If they're wanting the special teams guy,
but who do you think they're going to take? Make a decision.
I want them to take Marcus Allen, but I think it's going to be Dangerfield.
All right. Okay, and Brian, you said Dangerfield, right?
I said they're going to keep Dangerfield. And Dave, real quick, I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just saying what I think they're going to do. What I would do, I'm keeping Allen, but what they're going to do is Dangerfield. I just know this team and what they do with incumbents. And you're right on the Gilbert thing too, but I just have the feeling what they're going to do.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah. I can see them keeping Allen. I don't know why they kept Allen last year at all, because he barely played in the preseason, but they kept him. And they kept him on the roster the entire year. And he didn't play until I think like week 16 or week 17 against the Bengals, like the first game action he saw. I don't know why, but they kept him. I think they keep him again. He actually showed a little bit in week 3. All right, so let's go to the offensive side of the football. And this is going to be interesting. We'll start with the offensive line. Gerald Hawkins. That's a name a lot of people are talking about. Brian?
He's got to go. He's shown nothing.
Dave?
Yeah, there's just not room for him.
Okay.
Especially a tackle.
All right, yeah, exactly. And I don't think he has the versatility to play guard, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He's not like Filer, who actually might be better guard than he is a tackle, but they need him at that right tackle spot. What about Johnson? Fred Johnson. Is it Fred or is it Frank?
Oh,
we're talking about.
You want to call everybody Frank. You probably call your kids Frank. I mean, it's like
Frank the Tank. Okay, go ahead. Frank Johnson. What are your thoughts?
Fred Johnson from Florida. There's a lot of upside, and he's shown some things. So I think they actually keep him. The whole thing is, are they going to keep 8? They're going to keep 9. If they only keep 8, Fred's probably gone, but Fred is going to get the call over Hawkins. I know he's a guard and Hawkins is a tackle, but the guard depth after the starters, you basically have BJ Finney and nobody else. So if you're going to have that fourth guard in there, it should be Fred Johnson.
Dave?
Brian, you said that perfectly. The only thing would be is if they try to get by with one less guy because of the versatility of Filer, that if they lose a guard, that he would slide to guard because they like their options with Filer at guard and one of the other tackles better than another guard. But to me, if they keep 9, Johnson's in. The only thing is, and they've kept 9, I think 4 of the last 5 years, if I'm right. There was 1 year in there where they only did 8. If they only do 8, then he's looking to be on the practice squad. He's the last guy, in my opinion. And Jeff, come on, you're an animated movie fan. Frank, that should be all about the big combine from Cars.
My kids aren't really into cars. When I think of Frank, I think of the scene from Billy Madison where he goes down to dinner and he goes, "Look at your shirt." And he goes, "Oh, this isn't my shirt. This is Frank's." And he holds up his shirt and it says Frank on it. Anyways, here's a question though. Okay, so you brought up the Filer moving to guard, which they could do, and they could cut Johnson. If they were to do that, let's say Ramon Foster gets hurt, and they don't want to move Finney there, so they take Filer and move him to guard. Who is the tackle? Because they've been really impressed with Bryan's boy, Zach Banner, so far, and some are saying he's outplayed Chukwuekorfor at tackle. So, guys, I think they both make it, right? But who would be that swing tackle, that primary backup? Bryan, let's start with you.
I'd like to say it's going to be Zach Banner.
Okay, well, that's your boy. I expect you to say that. That's fine. Yeah. Dave, do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree. I'm just going to explain it a little bit more. I think it's Zach Banner from a starting situation, but I wouldn't be surprised if Banner does not get a helmet on game day still, because I think they're going to give the helmet to Chooks because he's going to be the extra tight end and then could play it in game. But if it's coming to where you start, I would bump Banner in over Chooks as the starter, but I think Chooks might have the advantage of getting a helmet because of playing the extra tight end.
It's going to be tough. They have some tough decisions coming up. I mean, if you haven't figured that out yet, they've got some tough decisions. Okay, let's go to.
Well, wait a second.
What?
They have tough decisions. We're talking about tough decisions about the backup guys. We're not worried about the guys that they're doing. This is a great situation to be in. We're worried about who's going to fill out the bottom of the roster. We don't have to worry about, do we actually have a serviceable left guard, because we've got two.
Well, this is a great This is a great segue into the tight end position, which we can talk about how we don't have a good tight end. After Vance McDonald, it's a mixed bag of goods. We'll put it that way. I think we can all assume that Xavier Grimble's going to make the team. But my gosh, after that, it's like the cupboard is completely bare. So let's go with the rookie, Zach Gentry. Bryan, make the bubble, or does he make the team, or does the bubble burst?
I think he makes the team.
Dave?
I think he makes it mainly because they drafted him. But I think he's the number 3. And if they add someone else, that it might be someone else we'll talk about that would be gone, and Gentry would still say. But we'll see.
What are you referring to?
I think if they add another tight end, I think Gentry's going to be the 3 no matter what, and it would be if they bump Grimble out or not.
Might be one of those mysterious injuries.
Yes,
that a player goes on into reserve. Okay, I think Gentry as of right now stays, but they're going to be watching him closely on Thursday night to see what he can do. Here we go, another tough one. The running back, Edmonds, Trey. Is that his name? Trey, or is it Frank?
No, it was Frank Webb.
It's
right. Trey Edmonds.
Don't bring up Frank Webb. It's going to make Bryan all sad and depressed.
Yeah,
and
I'm on the ledge as it is.
Okay, but Edmonds, he played in week 3. Benny Snell, who we're going to talk about in a second, did not. Is there any chance that he takes Snell's spot, which we thought was secure and safe, on the 2019 roster?
All right, let me cause some controversy here. First of all, Benny Football is not going to get cut. But don't be surprised if this little injury that he has ends up with him playing games and putting him on the IR, and you actually see Pharrell Edmonds III, Trey, getting that job to start. And Edmonds could be one of those guys, like I talked about with LJ Ford and Steven Johnson, popping up and down, inside and out. I mean, he has a brother on the team. It could be a possibility where they're like, all right, like you said earlier, we're going to go ahead and drop you, but bring you back. Just be patient. He could definitely be one of those guys as well. But Snell has averaged 2.1 yards per carry. And I wouldn't be surprised if they played the little IR game with him.
Dave?
I think Edmonds goes to the practice squad because he has one more year left. So that would be a good place to do that. I think he's more likely to get there than Snell. I know they say that doesn't matter, but it kind of does. and they took him in the 4th round. And I think it's the 4th round and up that they really don't want to let him go unless they're awful. Because I brought it up on my show last night. If Bryan could ever remember this guy, Jeff and I were going to set you up months ago and ask a question about this that made you think it would be. But the famous 4th round choice of the Steelers, the defensive back in the 70s out of Nebraska, known as Wonderful Terrific Mons Sr., that ended up being a complete bust and was cut, I think, not even until they finished training camp. That was rare that they get a 4th round guy that they don't keep. I think basically because where he was drafted, he'd have to be really bad on Thursday, I think, for them to not keep him.
Where has Benny Snell shined the most for the Steelers this preseason?
Special teams.
You got it. And you know what that means? Making the team.
If you looked at Tomlin's, if you listen to his interview from yesterday, that's exactly what he said. He says he is more likely to be on the field for special teams than he would be to actually carry the football. So that's an important thing to look at. And he's looked good on special teams. Yeah. So, like I said, he would have to be terrible on Thursday for them to not keep him.
All right. Another position that's very jumbled in terms of depth, and that's wide receiver. Is there anyone here that sees Ryan Switzer or Eli Rogers not making the team? Or one of those guys set up to be a surprise cut on Saturday? Anyone agree? Anyone? Dave, Bryan?
No, they're both staying. Should they? No, but they are both staying.
I can see one of them getting cut. I don't know what it is. There's something about me that says
they're going to piss me off and go ahead and keep Rodgers. And I could go on a rant, and I'm about to, but Dave, go first.
I think Rodgers could go as a surprise cut, which would make the whole notion of them not tolling his contract and signing him to a 2-year deal kind of ridiculous. But has he really shown up at all in the preseason?
Not at all.
No, but I think for wide receiver, I really do think it could come down to tomorrow night. I really do.
Okay, so let's, Bryan, do you want to go on your rant now or do you want to wait till later?
I'm going to go now.
Go for
Deontay Spencer is 5'8", and he is blazing fast. He has done it in Canada. He has done it in college. He's had 3 touchdowns each time in games that he has totaled over 300, almost 400 all-purpose yards. The guy is a phenomenon, and they have not had a return man like this in years. This guy is averaging almost 15 yards per punt return. They haven't seen that in a long time. Antonio Brown never did it. When Eli Rogers was the punt returner in Pittsburgh, they had to bring back Antonio Brown because he was so bad. Every time you threw a ball to him before he got hurt in 2017, it seems like he dropped it. They love this guy for some reason. Maybe it's because he looks like E.T. with that giant head. I don't know, but he's awful. But they keep these guys around because they have some kind of I don't know. I mean, they just love this guy, and they won't get rid of him. Switzer is a guy that, I think he has more upside as far as a receiver, and Ben has I do not need blood pressure meds, Cree. It's actually pretty good. But Ben has a rapport with Switzer, and that's fine. But he should not be there as a return man. He looks like a threat. Never. Spencer, when he gets the ball, every time he got the ball this year, you think he's going to break it. And he's going to break it soon. And you know what's going to happen? He's going to end up in New England, and he's going to break 1 or 2 as a return man. Don't let this guy go just because he doesn't have pedigree and he hasn't been there before. He's proved it in Canada. He proved it in McNeese State. Let him prove it in Pittsburgh. Stephon Logan, you ever hear of him? He was pretty darn good.
If only he could catch the ball as a wide receiver, because as a wide receiver so far, he has been less than subpar. His best plays on offense have been where they handed him the ball on an end around. But as a receiver, he's at the bottom of the list.
How many times have they thrown to him?
A few. I think he has 3 drops in the preseason.
Well, he's gonna have an opportunity Thursday night.
That's why I say tomorrow night.
And so, you folks that are tuning into the show expecting us to give you here's a breakdown. Look, we're giving you a breakdown just in a different way. He's a guy you want to watch. 82 when he's on the field and he's going to play a lot. He is going to. You want to watch him because if he performs well, and like Dave said, if he can actually catch the football, I think he might be able to make some happen. What about Johnny Holton? That's Dave's boy. Dave was all about Johnny Holton. Dave, you think he makes the team? I don't think he does. But that's just
I mean, he looked all right as a receiver week 1, but he can't keep his feet in bounds this past week, and he hasn't really shined on the other parts of special teams that makes it look like that they need him, and other people have that looks like they're going to keep. I mean, there's even an argument now for Justin Lane to get a helmet on game day when a lot of us thought he would just be an inactive corner because he's been playing some gunner and stuff. So it could come down to stuff like that. But it seems like too many other people are stepping up on the special teams to where they don't need to keep Johnny Holton, who's shown that he's not the most reliable receiver. But I still think he's a better receiver than Deontay Spencer.
And say what you want about Justin Lane. He's not afraid to tackle. He's a physical corner. He'll come up and make a tackle. So special teams gunner would fit him well. Bryan, what are your thoughts on Johnny Holton?
He's DHB 2.0, but they have so much wealth at that position. And they have all these guys they think are going to play special teams. Why add another one at this point?
Yeah. All right. Last position, unless I skipped one, which I'm skipping one on purpose. That's punter. I just don't feel like talking about those guys. Let's go quarterback. Everyone's favorite duck caller. Everyone that is so obsessed. I swear there's so many people that are in this live chat that comment on these videos, that comment on the website behindthesteelcurtain.com. They're obsessed with Devlin Hodges. They're obsessed with him. They think that he's better than Dobbs. He's going to see an entire half. Dobbs is going to start tomorrow night, Thursday night. Rudolph is going to come and probably play the second, and then he'll get the whole second half to himself. So, guys, is there any chance that Devlin Hodges somehow, some way, finds his way onto this 53-man roster? Bryan?
I hope so. And the reason I hope so is I think Dobbs is dreadful. I thought it was dreadful in that second half. Dave Schofield sat with me in my house during that Oakland game. And that was the first time I watched a game with Dave, so I was being reserved. But he single-handedly blew that game. And we talked about it about a month ago on this show. I don't see Devlin Hodges as worse. I think he has so much more upside. Dobbs looked terrible the other night, and he does nothing to impress me. So, I mean, please give this guy a chance, or just don't go with Dobbs. If you're going to go with two quarterbacks, go with two quarterbacks. If you don't really want to give Devlin Hodges a chance, I'm not saying that he's going to be the next superstar, but I think he could be a heck of a backup. I'd feel more comfortable with Devlin Hodges than I ever would be with Josh Dobbs.
What about you, Dave?
Well, my philosophy is when I was sending this stuff to you is that I said that the Steelers have two quarterbacks that I think are locks, and that is Roethlisberger and Rudolph. I don't know that Rudolph's definitely locked in as the number 2, but he's definitely locked in to be one of the 3. Because Dobbs could end up still being the number 2 because of what they do. I'm not saying he should be, but I'm saying you never know with the way they want to do stuff. In my eyes, I think Dobbs is at best number 3, but I could see them keeping him around only because he was a draft pick because of the whole pedigree thing. I don't want him to. I don't want him to. I would love. A lot of people are like, you got to trade Dobbs. You got to trade Dobbs, and I'm like, for what? For a broken toaster? No one's going to give you anything at this point because they know he's going to be out there. Everyone wanted to trade Dobbs last year, and they weren't even trying to trade Dobbs. They were trying to trade Landry Jones. They couldn't trade him. So everyone wants to trade Dobbs. I don't see anyone really wanting to give him anything. So I just think they're just going to have to make the decision, and I'm hoping that it's. I'm honestly, based on the 3 games so far, I'm hoping that it's Hodges, but let's see if we still feel the same way Friday.
Bryan?
Dave, you were married in 2003. I was divorced in 2003. So I cut that number 1 draft pick. And I really did, because what have you done for me? At that point, I'm not keeping anybody around because they're a draft pick. And if you're just going to say, look, we made a mistake on this guy. He was the right guy to pick at the time, but now we have better. And in fact,
I agree.
But if he is the number 2 over Rudolph, I am going to be livid.
Me too.
That would be absolutely ridiculous. Look, I mean, just because you spent a draft pick on somebody, you could say, hey, we were wrong. Just cut ties. Don't try to save face with a crappy player.
I know. I like the rant, Brian, and I'll be honest with you. I completely agree with you. But we're asking not what we want to happen, but what we think the Steelers will do. And they have done that far too often, in my opinion.
I agree with you, but it's time to make changes with what you do. Hey, they did it this year in the draft. Everyone's saying, hey, this team does not move up, especially to number 10. They're not going to do it. They're not going to make trades on draft day. Hey, they did it. Hopefully, they're going to think about, maybe we should roll with the tide. Maybe we should just go ahead and adapt to 2019.
I want to know what Jeff thinks.
I mean, it's simple, guys. I mean, here's how it's going to work. First and foremost, I think Mason Rudolph already has number 2 locked up. Okay, I think that was obvious when they broke their rotation to have him play in the first quarter, most of the second quarter in week 3. So they broke their rotation. Dobbs started week 1, Rudolph started week 2. Rudolph was the first in after that. I saw that comment by Darren. That was good. Now, he said he'll eat a bill of his own toenails if Rudolph is the primary back. Now, in my opinion, in week 3, they got Hodges 0 snaps. If there was any chance at all that he had a shot at making this team, he would have at least played in the fourth quarter. And he got 0 snaps in what is considered the preseason finale. And Dave's probably going to tell me about how last year Joshua Dobbs didn't play in week 3 and he still made the team over Landry Jones. Am I right?
That's true.
I can read your mind. So I don't think that Hodges, unless he comes out, absolutely has a tremendous half tomorrow night. That's the only chance. And if Dobbs keeps turning the ball over. Because Tomlin made it a point to say in a press conference that Mike Tomlin is uber calculated with what he says to the media, and he speaks to his players through the media. And when he said, plain and simple, he's been kind of a little bit over complimentary of Rudolph. I mean, he's been talking about how he's confident in his demeanor and all that stuff that he loves about him. And Dobbs, he's been talking about how he needs to protect the football better and all this stuff. So for me, I could see that's going to have Dobbs is going to play like garbage. Hodge is going to play lights out. Otherwise, it's going to be Ben 1, Rudolph 2, Dobbs 3, and all the Devlin Hodges fans are going to go jump into a river. So,
can I ask you a question, Jeff?
Sure.
Do you live in your fears? Like Mike Tomlin says, we can't, because that's my fear of why I'm not saying that I'm sure that Mason Rudolph is the number 2 quarterback. I'm afraid because I'm such a fan that that's influencing my thoughts and not really thinking about what the Steelers are thinking. Because I think he's got to be the number 2, but because I'm a Rudolph guy, I'm afraid that's my problem.
Well, I mean, I'm pulling for Mason as well. Everyone knows my fascination and with Mason Rudolph as a prospect for the Steelers, but at the same thing, I just think he's played well enough.
There's no way. I'm telling you, there is no way that Mason Rudolph is not the number 2. Because if we go back to Dave's theory, and I'm not ripping on you, Dave, but the fact that they're protecting draft picks, this is a guy they traded. They traded for in Mason Rudolph. I mean, why would they not make him the number 2? They've got to protect that pick. Mason Rudolph is your number 2 guy, and I actually have faith in Mason Rudolph. I agree with Jeff's man crush. I mean, I'm starting to have it. When I see Mason Rudolph come on the field this preseason, I've got little hearts flying above my head. And I'm like, yes. I mean, like, it's like slow motion. I'm hearing Dreamweaver in the background. Dreamweaver. Mason Rudolph.
Funny is I thought that before you said it. About Dreamweaver. I'm thinking of Wayne's World.
Yes, that's right. That's what I think of too. Okay, so we'll see how that plays out. I do want us to have a quick message about what's going to happen this week, since we're kind of finishing up with our bubble game. So Thursday, tomorrow night, is the game itself. That is going to be on NFL Network, by the way. So if you have NFL Network, you'll get the Steelers, unless they cut away and go to the Cowboys game like they did last time. So you'll have the Steelers versus Panthers tomorrow at 7:00, and then we'll be on for the post-game show, myself and Lance Williams. Friday, Lance will be on late on the East Coast doing his Yeah, I Said It. Saturday, we're going to be doing a special show. I know Dave will be with me. I don't know if Bryan's available Friday, but we're going to do a post-cut-down show. So once the Steelers at 4 p.m., which they might release the list earlier than that, whenever they release their list that they're cutting down to 53 players, we're going to have a podcast, and we're going to make sure that we get a show on, and then Sunday's the standard, and then we prepare for the regular week after that. So just a quick programming note. So now is the point of the show where we do our little I said it. It's either or. Okay, it's an either or segment, and during the season we say we're only going to do Steelers either ors. If you want some fun off-season banter, go back and listen to one of our old podcasts or shows where we talk about everything from like Gilligan's Island to MASH and all this other stuff. So here we go. I'm going to start, Dave, no offense, but here's the situation. Here's the scenario. Bryan, pay attention. All right. So Steelers, Ravens, AFC Championship game. 4th down, 1 second left on the clock. You're at the 20-yard line. You need it. It's going to be a pass play. You're not running the football. And you get to bring back one of two receivers to make the play. It's either Santonio Holmes or it's Hines Ward. Who you bringing back and dialing up a play for? Bryan, I want to hear your answer first.
Wow.
Think about the situation. 4th down, 1 second left. You need a touchdown. You're going to throw the ball, but you have to pick one receiver to make the play against the Ravens in the AFC Championship to go to the Super Bowl.
You know what? This might be wrong, but I'm going Hines Ward. He's just ice water. He's clutch. He's always been that guy. Give me number 86.
Dave, what about you?
If it's only for one play and you're wanting that fantastic catch, all I can think about is that 2 feet down, falling out of bounds catch to win the Super Bowl in 2008. And I'm like, if it's just one play, it's hard to not say Santonio Holmes. It really is.
Hines Ward's history with the Ravens was all about physicality.
Mm-hmm.
Him hitting Ed Reed, going after Ray Lewis, all that stuff. Santonio Holmes is a Ravens killer. He was in a multitude of games against Baltimore. I'm going to take Santonio Holmes in that situation, but a lot of people in the live chat are saying, like Bryan, they're going with Hines. So that's mine. I was thinking about those two players the other day and how
if you brought them back for the whole season, I think the answer is Ward.
Ward was more consistent. He was much more consistent. But Santonio was that big play. I always thought about, to me, one of the most exciting plays that wasn't in a Super Bowl or the playoffs that I've ever seen was probably, Bryan's going to be able to tell me the year, Steelers, Packers at Heinz Field. Time's running out. Ben throws it to Mike Wallace in the corner of the end zone, touchdown. They walk it off.
2009.
That was the year Ben threw over 500 yards, I think, in that game. He and Rodgers just were lighting it up.
Yep.
That was one of the most exciting games I've ever watched.
Oh, my goodness.
So
that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was thinking about that game, and I was like, man, if they could draw up a play, and I said, okay, so that's mine. Dave, go ahead with your either or.
Well, mine's a little bit similar, but I'm going to say, okay, let's say it's week 1. It's in Foxborough. The score is the Steelers are down by 3 points with 2 seconds left in the game. They are on the 1-yard line going in. James Conner already has 140 yards rushing on the day. Do you go for the touchdown or do you kick the field goal and go to overtime?
Okay, so go through the scenario again one more time.
You're on the 1 yard line
Uh-huh.
with 2 seconds left. You're down by 3.
Yeah.
But Connor's already had a great day rushing. He's already had it's not like he's coming in and he only has 32 yards on 18 carries. He's got over 140 yards, so he's been running great all day. Do you hand that ball off for him and say, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this win here in Foxborough," or do you kick the field goal and say, "Let's see what we can do in overtime"?
See, for me, Mike Tomlin has kind of changed my thought process. He's done this multitude of times. I mean, you think back to when the San Diego game.
You stole my thunder.
The San Diego, give it to Snell, says Reed. Yeah, no thanks. The San Diego game, and then also the Christmas Day game against Baltimore, which is another situation where if Mr. 3rd and 5th doesn't reach the ball over, they lose the game.
That was going to be close. It was going to be really
very close. So for me, run the ball. I like James Conner in short yardage. I think that offensive line will get the push they need. And a couple of people have already been saying play action and bootleg it out and hit the tight end open in the back of the end.
Yeah. Will we have a tight end by that point?
We don't have a tight end right now, so it's fine.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, what would you do?
2015 against San Diego was just exhilarating. And could you imagine if Mike Tomlin blew that call? I mean, no one gives him credit for that ballsy play, but it was amazing. And Lev Bell just got in, and it was, I'm sorry, butt naked and robbed, just got in, and it was fantastic. Here's the thing, and Bo just brought this up. Pray that Brady doesn't they don't win the coin toss and go all the way down the field. Look, you're in Foxborough. They're going to win that. They're going to win that coin toss, and they're going to go down, and you're never going to get a chance at the ball. So run it.
You're playing with house money in that scenario.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the Super Bowl champs are putting their banner up. That place is going to be crazy. Prime time. No one's expecting you to win that game, so you go out there and you play to win. But Dave, what would you do?
Well, that's why I picked that scenario. There's several different things that factor into this. One, as of right now, that is the game that you are the biggest underdog for the entire season at this moment. That's the game you're not supposed to win against the Super Bowl champions at their field. If you turn around and that's the same situation week 2 at home against Seattle, I think you kick the field goal. But on the road and in that situation, go for it. Go for it. You've already shown that you've done it. With a lot of yards rushing earlier in the game. You've got that and in my opinion, the best offensive line in the league. It's not a no-brainer. It's a tough decision, but you go for it.
All right, Brian. Either or time.
So here's my opportunity to alienate the entire live chat except for Cree and Darren Dalton, because they're always on my side. I appreciate you guys. So here's the deal.
If you're not watching on YouTube now, you missed out.
It's Kramer with the reverse people. It really is. So I'm going to bring up a situation that is really going to tick some people off because it's women's soccer.
Oh, boy.
All right. So we saw it in Philadelphia this week. Carly Lloyd in practice hit one like 50 plus. So would you rather go a season with 2018's Chris Boswell, or at least go with U.S. women's champion, World Cup champion Carly Lloyd as your kicker?
I'm going to take C and go with Kathy Ireland. Is that possible?
Unnecessary roughness. That was
great. Is she available? I'm not sure because I'll take her.
Brian's leaving.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, I'll take Kathy Ireland.
Kathy Ireland.
Love it.
I'll go with Boswell. I think Boswell's looking good so far, and
No. We're talking 2018 Boswell.
Oh. I don't know.
You want me to answer, Jeff?
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about Kathy Ireland now.
Dreamweaver.
Did you ask a question, Brian? What is it? Oh yeah, man, I really am thinking about Kathy Ireland. Here's the thing with that video, and I don't want to sound. I mean, I saw what's the lady that I can't say her name? That's the ESPN reporter for the Steelers. Aditi
Kinkawumbo.
I can never, yeah. Her.
Wasn't that a Kid Rock song?
Yeah. Bang, bang, bang. Okay. Anyway, she put something out about the whole problem with her and being a woman, things like that. There is something that people are not noting about that kick. You don't get 8 steps to run up and kick a field goal. If you watch that, I think with that much of a run up, I could hit a 55-yard field goal.
No, you couldn't.
Okay, yeah, Jeff, you're right. We'll raise money. We'll raise money. Look, whoever wants
55-yarder, Dave.
I tell you what,
my max is probably, well, I'm gotta say
55-yarder.
I haven't kicked regularly for several years. My max was closer to 50. But that was with a regular that was with a regular step up, and that's like 1 out of 20. You know what I mean?
To a local field. We'll go ahead.
We will do this, and I'll
live stream it.
No, honestly, I mean, if you're going to have that much of a run up, is the thing. What my point is that's like a kid. She was basically kicking like a kickoff.
Hold on. Yeah, no, I'm not concerned about your answer anymore. I want to get back to this 55-yarder. So you're telling me that you think with an 8 step up, I don't care how many steps you take, you could run 50 yards. You could make a 50-yarder.
Okay, so I'm trying to think if I'm kicking off from the 40-yard line, that means that I would basically have to put it through the uprights at the 10-yard line, which means could I get it into the end zone on a kickoff from the 40?
What? We're talking about kicking a field goal, Dave.
Yeah, I know, but it's the same equivalent because think about it.
Why wouldn't you just have the equivalent of kicking a stupid field goal? Why are you bringing kickoffs into this?
Because when you kick a field goal, you get 3 steps. When you get the big run up on a kickoff. So if you compare it to how far you can kick a kickoff, I mean, I've put kickoffs into the end zone, but it's been a long time. So I probably couldn't do it anymore because.
So what's the wager here, guys? What's the wager here? Because we'll go to. We all live in the same town.
How many chances do I get? We don't know how many chances they were given.
Well, Snowman says $100. Says Dave can't. There you go.
You know what? For $100, I don't think I could.
Hey. Let's make this interesting, Brian. Let's make this interesting. So what?
$1 per yard.
Now, do you think you can make a 45-yarder?
Do I think I can make a 45-yarder?
Yeah.
That's probably getting more into the range.
Brian, go ahead and chime in here. Chime in here, Brian. I don't want
40 for sure. I could hit 40 for sure.
For sure.
Well, I've got a 3 my kick. Last kick at Heinz Field, I got a 30-yard chance and 1 chance, and I split the uprights.
1 shot.
Oh, 1 shot.
But if I only get 1 shot, that's the question. How many shots do I get?
Brian, go ahead.
You know what? I mean, here's the deal. We talk about the tip jar all the time. So Brandon Lee says $25 he can do it. Snowman says $100 he can't. So we can go ahead and set this up for a week from now and see how many. I love that. We could see how much money we could put in, and we could make it really interesting for the tip jar here. Now, I am willing to go ahead and put $50 in and say into the tip jar, saying that he can't.
Okay. Well, okay. So the wager's got to be 2-sided here. So Dave, if you make it, what do you get? You just want money?
Your eternal praise.
You get that.
I don't need anything. I'd do it just for the fun of it.
Here's the deal. Let's do it this way.
What was the bet about me watching a game with you guys? What was that?
No, it was watching Star Wars.
Oh, that's right. What was that bet?
I don't even remember what that bet was.
Oh, no. No, you wouldn't take the bet. You refused.
That's true. That's true.
But it was reasonable. It was reasonable. Gosh.
Okay, this is my biggest concern. Snowman is right on it. Because honestly, I have not kicked a field goal since I've turned 40. So I'm starting to think I was a little bit too ambitious with this because everyone knows once you hit 40, everything goes downhill. But I think I was 39 the last when I hit my 30-yarder at Heinz Field.
Okay, so all right, next week. So next week, I don't know when we're gonna do this. We all live in the same town, so we can pick a field, and we're gonna go. What's the distance?
No. Jeff's going to let me hear it. I don't know if I could even say it.
What's the distance? That's what I want to know.
No, the problem is I have a broken toenail on my right foot right now. I don't know if I can do it next week. Seriously, give me no. You know what? I'll do it anyway. I'll suck it up. I'll go with the bloody sock.
The Kurt Schilling.
Now he's going Kurt Schilling on us.
Are you seeing?
Okay, so Brian, go ahead and lay down the semantics here, Brian.
Oh wait, it's the wrong one.
Okay, let's go 45-yard field goal.
How many kicks does he get? Let's give him more than one. Let's give him three.
Three.
Okay.
And
45-yard 3.
And here's the deal. If Dave gets a choice, he gets the money from everybody that says he can't, or Jeff has to watch either Star Wars or a game, with us and not complain, or he could take the money. On the flip side, it goes into the BTSC tip jar, and we get to gloat every time we want to.
Okay, so we're saying that we're going to be collecting donations for this bet.
Yeah.
And if Dave can make the kick, he would get that amount of money.
Or if he chooses, you have to watch the game. You have to watch something with him.
Can't I just watch a game with you guys instead of watching Star Wars? Like, I would go to your house, Brian, and watch a Steelers game.
It's up to Dave. And I'll even throw it in. I mean, so I'm on the hook too. I'll do anything Dave wishes to within reason. But
this will definitely be live streamed, though. Just so you know.
Oh yeah, we will live stream
I will live stream the hell out of this.
And so with that being said, Dave, do you think that's fair? You actually get options here.
I'll do whatever you guys want to for your entertainment.
Dave, come on. My gosh, you got to be the worst person to pick a restaurant ever. You never make a decision. So pick
if it's about food, I'll make a decision.
Whatever you want, honey. I don't care as long as you're happy.
Okay, so here's the thing. We're going to give you a week to practice if you want.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do this next Friday. Weather permitting, we'll talk about the location. We don't need to tell anyone else. Just the three of us need to know. We're going to go and I'm going to live stream this on YouTube so that everyone can watch it. 3 kicks. Do you have footballs, Dave, or do I need to get some?
I have at least one still.
Well, okay, we can make it work. I'll bring my 5 kids. They can go and catch the footballs and bring them back. So
I don't have a tee.
You don't need a tee. You're kicking a field goal. You don't kick off a tee.
What are you talking about?
Brian's going to hold it for you.
Even in high school, you have the little black block that the ball gets put on.
That's up to you. That's up to you.
So
hey, I tell you what, we'll get a holder from the high school if we have to. We could get somebody from the high school staff. I'm sure we can do that. I'm sure.
Or just put it. I mean, if you're on limited run up, why don't you just put on a kickoff tee?
Yeah, well. Ahoy, mateys!
Oh man! Okay,
we were talking about.
Okay, so now, so we're gonna do this next Friday. So if you think that when you put in super chat money, I will keep track, just so that we can make sure that I know how much money Dave gets if he actually makes this kick. Okay, so if you've listened this far, God bless you.
I don't want to kick for the money. I don't want to kick for the money.
It's not up to you, Dave. It's not up to you, Dave. So here we go. It's okay. So we'll start with this. We'll start next week promoting this and getting this. I might put this on the website even.
Oh, Jeff. We never answered the question. We never answered Brian's question.
You said the question doesn't matter.
You said you could make a 55-yard field goal, Dave. A 55-yard field goal. Do you know how ludicrous that is?
You do realize I kicked, right?
I don't care.
Yeah.
It's 55-yarder. There's NFL kickers that can't make a 55-yarder. They practice every day.
But you also look at them in practice. You're like, oh, well, they hit that. I mean, they're kicking 70-yarders in practice. It's practice.
All right. So you only have to
practice.
make a 45-yarder,
Jeff,
folks.
We're talking about practice.
We're talking about Allen Iverson. So listen, if you want, what is this? Darren says, have Dave predict the score for this week's 4 game. That's way.
That's not 5 yards, maybe 1
way
yard.
Too complicated. Okay. Yeah. So here we go. Next Friday, weather permitting, at a local high school in our area, we are going to find a field.
Everyone's going to be playing.
I'll find a field.
Okay.
And we'll walk it off. I don't care. 45-yard kick, Dave Schofield for the money. So if you're in the live chat and you want to put some money up for Dave to possibly win in the pot, do it. And if you don't put any money up, it'll still be funny and it'll still be worth watching. 3 kicks, 45-yarder. We will absolutely. That's a good point. I think the weather shouldn't matter. If it's raining, you should be able to kick in any condition. So keep that in mind. I do want to say, though, on a serious note, not that this isn't serious, very serious. On a serious note, we're continuing to have more and more. What are we at for the David DeCastro football, Dave? How many leagues are we in?
We are in the 4th league.
Holy geez, that's over 300 people now that are vying for the football. And so we said Saturday at 4 p.m. is the deadline.
Saturday at 4 p.m.
I'm in.
We could potentially extend that if we wanted. We could potentially extend that if we wanted. I would think it'd be really cool to get 4 leagues full. So, all right. No, we're going to get him. He's got to find a tee. If he wants a tee, he's got to find it. Or you have to do what we would. Hey, when we were kids, you know what we used to do? You just pound your heel into the ground. You just pound your heel into the ground, then you just put the football right there. That's what we had to do. Had no tee.
Hey, we could get local coaches too. I'm sure Dave has some pull with local coaches. That'd be great.
I do. I do. And he's a Steeler fan.
There you go. All right. Dave's gotten really quiet, so I feel like he's kind of nervous. So we're gonna...
Wait.
No, I'm just trying to remember the last time I had to put the heat wrap on the hamstring because I know that's going to be coming. I'm just thinking about
Dave. We're giving you a week. We're giving you a week to prepare for this.
Yeah, but Bryan, once you go over 40, it's going to take me 2 weeks to recover from 3 kicks because of being old. Barefoot, yep.
You're going to kick barefoot?
No, that was just suggested.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right. So if you're listening in audio form and you made it this far, like I always say, God bless you. And make sure you check out the YouTube video, even if you fast forward all the way to the end, so you can see some of these live chat comments. This was one of the best live chat shows we've ever had. So, okay. Eli Fisher's the Chicago Bears.
This is the most fun I've ever had.
That says a lot about your personal life. Okay.
I've been to Vegas too.
All right. Thank you, everyone that's been watching this whole time. Thank you for everyone that participated in the live chat. And we will see you all tomorrow night, myself and Lance Williams, for the post-game show. Remember, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe so you don't miss any shows. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Steelers Preview, where we're going to be previewing an actual regular season football game. Get pumped. I'm pumped. Let's go. We'll see you.